Aloha, I am June Jones of the Houston Roughnecks, and this is the XFL show.
More burger! For the love of football! 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 Let's go!
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
Welcome, football fans. This is For the Love of Football, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
Over the last few weeks, we've learned a lot about the state of the CFL and just how skeptical and imaginative fans can be. One thing, though, that we all can agree on at the end of it all we want is just some football to be played after these conversations. Damn it. This is episode 163, the most anticipated CFL season in XFL history, Bryant. That's what we're talking today.
Can't fight that, and I won't fight that. P.S. Mama, I love you. It's an interesting time to be an XFL fan. I always say interesting because that's what it is. What are we paying
never
attention to?
boring.
Are we paying to the CFL? Are we paying to the XFL as it pertains to the CFL? Do I have to watch CFL this summer? Is there going to be CFL this summer? It is the most anticipated possible CFL season ever.
Yeah.
Remember, committed to saying we're playing.
And this week they had a very interesting proposition for the CFL Players Association we're going to get into, as reported by our special guest on some bonus content we put out last week, Bryant, with TSN's Dave Naylor, the Ace Football Insider up in Canada. We had a nice, good, crisp, long conversation with him about these negotiations. He wants football played at the end of the day. He's, of course, covering the CFL, wants football played this year. And he gave us a ton of insight into what's going on with the CFL this year and moving forward.
Yeah, go back and listen to that, football fans. If you didn't, we talked to Dave Naylor from TSN. Some would say that he's the Adam Schefter of the CFL. I say Adam Schefter is the Dave Naylor, because Dave Naylor is the more exclusive. There's only like one Dave Naylor. There's a couple Adam Schefters out there that are sprinkled around the league.
Also, Dave Naylor was on this show, and that just instantly makes him a legend to us. We appreciate his time.
Yes.
I'm still shocked he gave us so much of it, but it was a fascinating conversation. And yes, if you missed that interview, shame on you. No, I'm not shaming anybody. Go check it out, though. That's a must. Absolute must in these days of waiting to hear how these negotiations turn out. And everybody has their thoughts, their opinions on whether they should even be talking or what a merger or alignment would look like. Or, I mean, you're the only thing containing or the only thing holding us back is our own imaginations with this stuff. But with Dave Naylor, Bryant, we really, we kept it focused. We kept it to the facts that we know now. And then we had a little fun as well, but that's definitely a must listen to. And later on in today's show, we're going to go over some of what we learned in that interview. Now, a week later, a little bit more information, a big proposal by the CFL for their season this year. So there's some more discussions to add on top of all the knowledge we gained last week in that interview. Absolutely got to check it out. It's on our YouTube channel and on the podcast feed, just like a regular show. Definitely recommend it. And we appreciate everybody who did check it out. Bryant, Dinkin, and Duncan are on XFL social media. I mean, right away, getting into this. Real quick, give them the number, 724-565-4XFL. Let them know they could call in and chime in, give us your reaction to Dave Naylor. I'm so damn excited to recap that interview because we haven't really discussed it since we talked to him, Bryant. 724
we haven't, but
565-4XFL. That's the number. XFL
Relax,
Fan
Alan.
Line.
You were so excited for a CFL XFL merger, you're losing yourself. It's like
No,
the fourth time we've had.
I'm not using the word. I'm not saying merger. I'm not saying the word merger. I'm saying a relationship. We'll call it that.
Let me take over for Alan here a little bit while he calms down.
724-56. No, I'm kidding.
Has a little bit of tea, maybe chamomile to settle his butt down a little bit. 724-565-4XFL. Text or call the XFL Fan Line.
The XFL Fan Line.
Show. And at
Tolls.
XFL Show on
No
Twitter.
tolls, but you might have to pay. I don't know how texting works now. Damn it.
Yeah.
React. It was a great interview. And also this show, you're going to have a lot to react to as well.
For sure. And really what we were trying to convey with this interview, Alan, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as XFL fans, which most of the people who listen to this show are, what is going on in the CFL? And I think that's what we're trying to convey. Maybe it came across as a little bit, hey, the XFL is going to take over the CFL. We want that to happen. And maybe we do, maybe we don't. Who knows? That discussion can be had at some other point. But our point was to get Dave Naylor on the show to actually talk about the facts about the CFL, where they're at, are they in dire straits, and how it relates to what the XFL could possibly do with them as a partner.
Yeah, this is the XFL show. Okay, so this is XFL talk from our perspective. So what we wanted to gauge was, who are these people that the XFL ownership are talking to? What's their deal? Where are they at? And then now we could go from there, and we have a whole lot of information. We know the CFL is desperately trying to play in 2021. And Dave Naylor gave us some information as well as to whether or not that can happen and what will go on moving forward with the CFL. It's going to be a really fun show, kind of recapping that interview and going into the news this week with the league proposing to the Players Association. This show is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You could go get your own podcast started today with your own producer by going to prettyeasypodcast.com for a very fair price. It's so easy to sign up. Just go to prettyeasypodcast.com and go sign up. Go to the About Us section, and they got a contact form for you if you want to get started today. Or email us here at the show. This is the XFLshow.com or at gmail.com, and we'll hook you up with them. 724-565. No, I'm not giving that number away again, Brian. I'm just saying the number now. Just please call us. It doesn't sound like Miss Cleo. Dinkin and Duncan now are on XFL social media. Let's get into the reaction to Dave Naylor in the interview we had with him. Tyler Sarderson on YouTube, Bryant, I think summed it up the best. We had a lot of responses, a lot of views on this compared to some of the stuff we've been putting out recently, because now a lot more people are paying attention to the XFL and the CFL with their announcement a few weeks ago. And Tyler Sarderson on YouTube said, "You landed an interview with a legitimate CFL insider. I really enjoyed this. Dave always shoots straight, never sugarcoats the facts. Ain't it the truth? I also agree with him 100% about the facts. Canadians have to ask themselves if 4-down football is better than none. Well done. Great video. Keep up the good work." Thank you, Tyler, for watching. And yes, that is basically what Dave Naylor got at, was concessions are going to have to be made. And what do Canadians want when they hear this news about the XFL and CFL talking, and 4-down football might be around the corner for them up there in Canada, who have enjoyed 3-down football for so long?
They have enjoyed it for so long. My favorite part of that tweet was, I also agree with him 100% about the facts. I'd hope you'd agree with 100% with facts.
That's just the damn day and age we live in, where you actually have to say that sentence. I agree with the facts, I guess. Whatever. But yes.
But in reality, Dave came on the show and did. He gave us the facts of what he's heard, of what he's talked to with actual people. So I appreciate the feedback there, Tyler. He also gave us a little congrats that you skipped over, but thank you, sir, for that. We're just here for you. Just how the CFLPA is there for the Canadian football players, the UFPA is there for the players itself, around the US. We here at the XFL show are here for you, fans.
I think we're just scratching the surface of what we're capable of.
Absolutely. All day, every day, for the fans, just like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been saying lately. Also, at XFL Show on Twitter, put up the poll question this week, Bryant. What impact do you want the hashtag CFL talks to have on the hashtag XFL? And this is kind of turning it around, because we were really focused a lot on learning about the CFL and how Canadians were reacting, or CFL fans were reacting. But now this is turning it on XFL fans. How do you want to see these negotiations pan out? What kind of results did we get from the poll question?
Yeah, so I put up this poll just to kind of get a feel for the XFL fans and the fans that follow us. It basically was your choices were none, shared assets, a merger with hybrid rules, or a merger with XFL rules. 45% said merger with XFL rules, which honestly I totally expected, because most of our viewership is XFL.
It's an
Bam.
XFL
So,
account. And if you
yes,
did it
exactly.
for Canadians,
If you did it for the
would have
CFL, it would have been
different. And also, like Dave Naylor also pointed out last week, this is social media. This is a sample size of a certain kind of people that maybe might steer more towards the negative when it comes to Canadian fans and hearing about this news. Whereas he said a lot of younger fans who maybe aren't even paying attention to this on social media would welcome 4-down football in the XFL and football league owned by The Rock for Canadian fans too. So it is a small sample size, but it's that poll at least is directly from our account, and that's people listening and following the show. So we appreciate everybody getting involved in that. And I definitely, if I
what
had
did you
to
vote
choose,
for, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, had to go with the one that won out, XFL rules. Not only because I'm a fan of 4-down football more so than the 3-down game, although I respect them and like them both. If you have to choose, I'm going with keep the XFL rule book and bring in some of the teams from the CFL and all that and all the like I've said, the access to the talent up there is really what's most important. But mainly I voted for that because of my respect for Sam Schwartzstein and all the work that the football ops guys did leading up to 2020, because that damn rule book.
Can you imagine all those rules in only 5 games?
Yeah, that rule book, one of my favorite reads of all time. It's up there with Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley and Dune. I mean, it's really a great read.
August Cousteau's Anyone Can Cook. It's really up there with me. Alan, real quick, because I did want to ask you this question, and maybe more so than anything else, is have you been reading or looking at some of people's, and this could be fans or writers, journalists, how they would like to see the rules blended? Have you read some of the ones that are out there?
So this is what I've been doing. I consciously am avoiding that because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole and go cross-eyed. That part of the conversation right now, I don't feel like getting into just yet. And I want to form my own opinions, and I don't want to see all these different crazy suggestions right now, because all that really matters right now is what happens at the negotiation table and what's the state of both entities. That's what I'm mostly focused on. I just really care right now about who is the ownership of the XFL, and we know pretty well that they have the most famous man in the world possibly as an owner, the first female owner of a sports franchise, and a very, very aggressive capital group when it comes to sports entities. And then you have the CFL, and about their state, which we talked about all last week. So that's what I've been focused on. I would not have been prepared for our Dave Naylor interview. I would not be prepared for it today if I went into some of the stuff that you've been sending me with people talking about, well, what if you take this team and that team and you keep this rule, but only these teams use this rules, and the Rouge is there for everybody, but in the States they play 4-down. I don't want to get into any of that just yet, because that's like the hard part. And I would have to get paid to sit down and do that. It would make my head explode.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, fine. Let me ask you this question. Right now at the discussion tables, are they discussing whether or not to merge, or are they saying, hey, we're going to merge and do this with the rules? Or does that part come later for them?
That's the $1 million question, because financially it probably makes all the sense in the world for the CFL to say, yeah, let's do something. But then you get into the details, and those do have to be hashed out before you start putting the plan together. So those will be, I think, at or near the top of the list, because it's football. It's a game, and you need rules. You have to agree upon the set of rules and the format of your league, the schedule, all that stuff will be early on, I think. But the initial announcement from what we got was potential alignment. That initial announcement, I do not 100% expect to get all the details on how it's all going to work. Whenever there's an announcement of something official, I think it's just going to be, hey, we have this official new thing, more details to come. That's what I expect.
I'm a little bit on that side, because I think there's so much detail to get into, but I do think that if the CFL and the XFL announce that they are merging together, and they are aligning together, I guess, that I will say at that moment in time, they will announce whether they are going to go to 3 down or stay at 3 down or go to 4 down for the CFL or vice versa for the XFL. I think that's going to be the question. It has to be hashed out. Are we going to 4 down? Yes or no? And if we are, let's just make an announcement now.
And I expect this to come in some kind of press release and social media release, and then followed by shortly thereafter, if not immediately thereafter, a press conference, joint press conference with full details and answering questions about all that kind of stuff. But how things
here's
work
a really quick,
in today's day and
question.
age, it's all done on social media and through press releases.
That's true.
First.
Big question. Can Randy Ambrosie stand up and not drink water for as long as Oliver Luck did?
Oh, I don't think any human alive can.
Yeah, that's true.
That's impossible. I can't even make it through 5 minutes of this show without a beverage.
And look,
it's very difficult. Yeah. Got it. Only Oliver Luck, who's just a one-of-a-kind commissioner and sports fan.
Good crisp football.
That I honestly very much miss covering. But maybe one day down the road we will get to again. Did the Pac-12 get their commissioner yet?
Not yet. I miss covering him too and calling him Coach Luck for some reason all the time. I could never get that out of my head. I just
incorrect.
Always did it so bad.
Erroneous. It's okay. 724-565 for XFL is the phone number to call. Did I give that out enough before we get cooking here? All right, let's do it. It's time for this week's Cover 2. TSN's Dave Naylor, our guest last week. Check out that interview. Friend of the show now, reporting this week on the latest proposal by the CFL to the CFLPA in order to get the 2021 season up and running and on time. Dave Naylor reports that the CFL delivered a proposal to the CFLPA, basically asking the CFL players to take a 20% pay cut, Bryant, for the season if fans aren't allowed in the stands. So if there are no fans in the stands, the CFL is saying, hey, if we don't have fans in the stands, we're not making any money. You players need to take a 20% pay cut and we'll play on time starting June 10th. And also with the caveat that knowing fans eventually will be able to go into stadiums, but never during the season up in Canada, Bryant, to full capacity. But there will be thresholds, certain amount of fans attending games. If those are met, then that'll click on the full payment of CFL players' contracts. That's what Dave Naylor basically reported this week. A 20% reduced rate of pay for players proposed in order to play on time by the CFL, with some thresholds in there to eventually kick those numbers up and get them paid their full amounts, all depending basically on attendance from fans in Canada. Do you think the CFL accepts these terms?
So I'm not a bargaining man. You know, when I got married a couple years ago, if the photographer told me $3,000, guess what I said? Here's $3,200, because I'm not going to bargain with you. I'm not that type of person. Although if I am the CFLPA, this is utter and complete crap. Like, our money is dependent on something that is out of our hands. And there's no way I'm agreeing to this. There's no way, because let's say, so what? The players need fans to get into the stands, right? To get paid. What are they going to go out there? They're going to go out there and be like, free tickets. I got tickets. Like, what is it? You know, what are you going to do to get fans into the stands? What if the fans never come into the stands? Yeah, I need tickets.
Yeah, I just pictured like Cody or like Cody Fajardo we're going to talk about for the Rough Riders outside Mosaic Stadium, scalping tickets before a game, trying to get people to walk in.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I just don't see how the CFLPA, now, not to say they won't take this pay cut, but the way it's presented to them, hey, if fans get to come in, we'll give you your money back. It just doesn't make any sense, because
I wasn't going to go to the game, but Mike Riley was over there and he gave me a good deal, so I went into the game, and it's I figured I'd help out the players, eh?
Yeah, and all the players show up for the players. $10 car wash, help your players out. Like, no, this is just not
20%'s a great tip for sure. That's a good tip.
Yes,
standard 20% pay cut after not playing the entire season, okay, that's some money. That sounds okay. But then you think about it and say, well, wait a minute. You guys are saying that you're talking to the XFL about something. You guys are saying, in the media at least, up in Canada, they're saying, well, we could probably get away with just postponing the start of the season. Why would I take the pay cut if I have uncertainty with the future of the league after this season and then a potential full payment if we just wait it out and play later? I mean, I'm hurting right now, but I can get, if I'm not going to miss out on that money, and I don't have to depend on, oh, the Canadian government's going to allow fans and vaccines are going to get rolled out and whatnot. Slower up there than down here too, Bryant. Can't forget that either. Canada's vaccination rate a little bit slower than in the States. So if I'm a player, I'm with you. Yeah. Why? And also just think about that now from the outside, not even from the player's perspective, as people covering the XFL CFL negotiations. So we're seeing this league this XFL's talking to now, right? Their whole business model and the way they're able to pay players is so dependent on fans in the stands, which is almost foreign as a concept in this century. I think when you think about the four major sports in the States, with the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB, like attendance has been declining for a lot of those leagues, especially the NFL. They don't care. They get a TV deal. You get all sorts of rights deals going on, and that's how you make your money. And you're so dependent on such an old model for a league. Of course, it's a traditional model. Okay, that does make sense at a certain point in time, but nowadays, especially when live sports are so coveted, you should be getting a lot more from outside of the stadium. So that's just what's baffling to me, that it's so dependent on that. They can't even pay the players in full to start. And I understand the pandemic, of course, destroyed the XFL, is bleeding out the CFL. So, of course, it's going to hurt them. But that's because of how they're modeled and because of the TV contract not being as juicy, but also they're limited because it is the CFL and they're in Canada. And even in Canada, interest being lost in that league from now. We've had a few weeks now to learn more about that, Bryant. You and I have heard what? Young people in Canada not as hyped for a CFL slate of games as people in their early 40s and on. So considering all that and looking at from an XFL perspective and just from someone just covering all this, man, the CFL is not in a good spot with that announcement this week, is what I learned from them offering a reduced rate to players. And then we saw a couple players also, notable players, Delvin Breaux, I believe, retired. I mean, not a good
right?
sign.
Because of
Yeah,
uncertainty. Yeah,
it's
there's a
not a
lot of
good sign.
uncertainty up there, and because of the business model. I mean, if you, as an XFL fan, if you go back to 2001, I'm going to throw a number out there because I think it's around 30,000 or so was the average attendance. I think through all the games, somewhere in that range. The XFL and the CFL seemed like they'd really like those numbers now, and back then in 2001, the XFL was like, 30,000 is just not good enough. Let's get out of here. You can't be so dependent on attendance anymore. There's so many other things, right? There is the media rights, there's social media advertising, things like that you have to engage your fans. And for whatever reason, the CFL has stayed with. I think
Merchandising, licensing.
Dave Dave Naylor said that I think it's 60% of the revenue was somewhat related to fans in the stands. Which, if we were hindering on fans in the stands at that point, then who knows? We'd be in a bad spot. So that being said, it's just so much uncertainty for the CFL when it comes to the season players opting out. Things like this just continue to pile on. It's making more and more sense why these conversations are happening with the XFL.
Yeah, and maybe I don't expect like a mass exodus of players saying, "Screw it, we're not playing this year," from all the uncertainty. But that stuff like that could also help the XFL out too from that side of the table. seeing players who are so vocal about the uncertainty and being frustrated. That I mean, that's crazy because think about it, the CFLs simultaneously navigating the pandemic and getting their season started, and a relationship with their players association, and having some kind of earth-shattering negotiation with the XFL at the same time. It's pretty crazy to think about. It's not a great spot to be in for the CFL.
Alan, there was a great documentary, I think back in like 2007, 8 maybe. It was called The Ghost of Flatbush. I don't know if you know this. It's about the Brooklyn Dodgers and them leaving Flatbush to come to LA. When it was finally in 1955, the Dodgers won the World Series in Brooklyn. Biggest hype ever, right? 2 years later, they're packing their bags. They're headed west. They're going to LA. There was 3,000 people in that stadium for their last game in Brooklyn. Nobody, uncertainty and not knowing what the future holds completely demolishes what's going on right now. You know, Naylor equated his house to it, right? His I'm moving, so I don't really care about this house anymore. The CFL needs to get some ground underneath them, whatever that is, because people are going to stop caring. Players are going to stop caring. Coaches, fans, all this is going to start dwindling away if you don't let them know what the future holds. And the CFL has to make decisions, whether that is with the XFL, what it is for 2021. I mean, there's so many uncertainty up there, and that's why I think it doesn't look great for the CFL. Sorry to say, but
It
and I'm not a
really
CFL
is.
expert. I've only been
Yeah.
here for 3 weeks. I've only been
Yeah.
kind of getting myself into this CFL, but talking to Naylor, looking at the fans, seeing what's going on, you know, writing on the wall. You know, you got to get some foundation. If not, you're only going to have 3,000 fans at your last game.
And offering 20% discounts on contracts to players is not a good way to, you know, move forward in a relationship with that players association. So that's not a good thing as well. It's just baffling to me, like a rock band and the CFL, like a small rock band. I messaged you. Do you realize Fozzy, Chris Jericho's band, and the CFL are both kind of the same business model, reliant on live crowds. Without them, they're kind of whatever. And Fozzy
It's like
has
indie
albums,
wrestling, anything indie, right?
Yeah.
Is the CFL indie? Is that what we're going with in this?
It's
Is the CFL
maybe
indie
it's like an
football league?
indie wrestling promotion, an indie band. It needs that live
And you know what?
crowd.
It was the way the NHL was, right? Especially here in LA. LA packed house every single when it came to the Kings. 18,000 strong inside Staples Center. No one else cared about the Kings. Only the 18,000 that were inside Staples Center, right? So it's a model that I guess works, but at some point you have to expand from that.
Yeah. And if we're talking indie bands also, Brian, just real quick, shout out Desecrate. All right. You gotta sell your soul to rock and roll
Hawk.
too, CFL. Part 2 here, the cover 2. Everyone has an opinion, Bryant. Everyone has an opinion on the CFL XFL negotiations. And last week we got into some of the CFL fan opinions with Dave Naylor. You and I have talked about the not super vocal XFL fan opinions, but the majority of them are just super optimistic and really don't know where it goes, because it is so hard to like imagine and just find one road and go down that and advocate for that or push it forward. But do you feel like the more time goes by, the more opinionated columnists put stuff out there? We saw a lot of Canadian media personalities coming out this week saying the CFL, Randy Ambrosie, cannot sell Canadian football and 3-down football, you know, for 4-down football. They got to stay true. You had media rights experts saying, you know, this is big money. They got to do this. I mean, they're instantly going to just both do each other really good in terms of TV contracts. We saw players saying, I have no idea what this is going to be. Cody Fajardo, the quarterback for the Rough Riders, even said it dilutes the CFL without a doubt. So everybody has some sort of opinion, and it kind of feels like there's like one side of the fence or other. It's becoming a little bit binary now. So do you feel like battle lines are being drawn? You're either for these negotiations or against them yet, or is it too early?
What is this, like Manchester City and Manchester United? Now it's just we're going to be starting drawing lines in the sand and battles before the games outside the stadium and things. I hope not. And I see, and I guess this goes back to like Twitter being negative and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I think everyone just wants football. The problem is that the CFL's football is going to look way more different, most likely, than what the XFL's football will look like. Even with drastic rule changes, everyone's gearing towards 4 downs, 4 downs, 4 downs. And just doing that itself is going to make the football look more normal to XFL fans and abnormal to CFL fans. So is there a line? Possibly. I hope there isn't. I want that to blend, like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Let's get blended. Let's figure this out.
I mean, that's a deeper Adam Sandler cut, but I get the reference. But you saying it's going to look different hit me kind of right here in the noggin. Light bulb just switched on. This is all relatable to everything else when it comes to the pandemic. Everything after it, now that normalcy or whatever normalcy is going to be is coming, is going to look different. So the CFL is going to look different. Me going to the grocery store, even when I do get a vaccine and am protected, will probably still be in a mask, looking different. That's how it's going to be for most people. So most businesses are going to have different measures, maybe more strict on their employees washing their hands. Maybe a restaurant's going to hire a hand washing, like a hall monitor, making sure everybody's clean. Things are going to be different all over the world. So with the CFL and the XFL with football, something's going to be different with the CFL when they start playing again. Things are already different for the XFL. They got new ownership, and who the hell knows what it will look like when they're actually on the field. But it's all stemming back to this is the pandemic and it's doing. So if CFL fans eventually do see their game get changed, just know you're not alone. Everything changed. Everything's changing.
Yeah, everything's changed. And I can understand the CFL fans' frustration because you think about it. The CFL was getting money for their TV deal. The XFL wasn't. The CFL has lineage. The XFL really doesn't. There's so many things that you would say, why do XFL fans have fans? Why does the XFL a thing? I mean, you look at The Rock, you look at the money behind it. That's their power in this entire conversation. Things that the CFL needs is what the XFL has. And, players, I know, Alan, you said it could be, but you said, and I think fans see it that way. Fans see, hey, we get money from a TV deal. We have the lineage. We have the history. You have literally paid 15 regular season weeks, 17 total as an XFL franchise, as an XFL business. That's how many weeks you've played. We play that in one season. Like, I can see the frustration from the CFL, but one seems to be crumbling. One seems to be on the up and up. And I think XFL fans, we're used to this. We're used to optimism. We're used to the future. We're used to looking ahead. We're used to thinking about what can possibly be the XFL. And that's why we're so much more excited for this. I know we keep referencing the interview, so go back and check it out. But Dave Naylor said, more vocal fans are the ones that are negative towards the whole situation. Well,
true.
It's still, there's some, if something positive happens, you're going to get a positive reaction too. CFL fans, I think, for the most part, are a little worried about their game, and I get it. And it's going to happen. Hopefully, we'll get some answers for all of us in the next couple of weeks.
He should be. So then to wrap up cover 2 then, so you would say the XFL is more like 3D Doritos. And then you've got the CFL, which is just kind of like a traditional ruffle. Like ruffles have always been there. 3D Doritos are, they come around every now and then. They give you an idea of like what a snack could be.
Yeah, and then they just fade away.
And then they go away because everybody realizes, oh, wow, this has a lot of MSG in it. We shouldn't give this to our kids.
What about delicious 3D Ruffles?
Now that's what we're talking about when we talk about alignment. All right, let's do it. It's time to talk about what we learned from good old Dave Naylor last week and another week of sitting around waiting for someone to say something from that negotiation table. Get to it with the hot read. All right, sinking our teeth into this week's hot read, Bryant. What we learned speaking to the Ace Football Insider from TSN, Dave Naylor, last week, we learned, well, the CFL cannot proceed as is. We learned the XFL might not play in 2022. And we also learned that those two leagues are most definitely talking about something that's more than just sharing best business practices. They are talking whatever you want to call it, merger, alignment, combining forces, something serious. And of course, we also learned, and we've been talking about it all show today as well, there will be concessions made by the CFL when it comes to their game. And we don't know what those are, but they're going to have to give something up. So do you see this becoming kind of a thing for fans where they look at the CFL, XFL negotiations as we just sit here and wait, and they just get so frustrated and antsy and lose interest? How does, because we also said there's a marketing tool for both leagues. The XFL has more attention than they've had in a long time because of the announcement. The CFL interest, not with just the season supposedly kicking off soon, is way up, especially in the States. What do you see them doing maybe to keep interest going? Just updates from the negotiation table? Will we get one of those? Or do you think Dave Naylor said we might be waiting a long time to hear what the actual details are. So where do you come out with that a week after talking to him?
I mean, there's so many things, right? So I'll start with that first when you said the CFL cannot proceed as is. I think it's not so much that they can't, it's that it shouldn't. It shouldn't proceed the way it's going because it's just not good business. The CFL has to make changes. What those changes are, they've obviously made the XFL merger a possible change for them to continue on. Their business model doesn't work. You can blame whoever you want. You can blame ownership. You can blame management. You can blame whatever. The facts are it's struggling and it needs to find a way to move forward. So maybe it cannot, but maybe should not is the proper term for that one.
I don't want to talk anymore.
It's going to be a while, I think, before we hear anything if the CFL plays in 2021 for the reasons I mentioned before about the whole, hey, when something's being changed, people are going to start losing interest. They don't care. You know, if my CFL is going away, if I'm a CFL fan, do I want to go to the last game? Do I want to support the people that are taking my game away? Or am I just going to go out on my high horse and say, hey, thank you for all the great memories. I'm out of here. The CFL has so many decisions. The XFL, well, we'll get to the XFL here. I'm talking CFL right now. The CFL has to tread water so quietly, because if any of this gets out, which is probably why they made this announcement of them getting aligned together in the first place. But if the CFL makes any more noise about ditching the 3 downs and ditching the mandatory Canadian player rule, all that stuff, you're going to start ruffling feathers in the CFL that you probably don't want to start ruffling yet. Because, sorry, Alan, real quick before you keep going. Because the fans that care about the CFL right now are the ones that don't want that to change. The reason you're making those changes are for fans who are not going to enjoy 2021 and are going to enjoy the future.
I'm just hoping we get like a shot of like Randy Ambrosi and Danny Garcia holding up some Terramana tequila together at a dinner or something. That'd be pretty cool.
What if it was like a dinner in like a city that's not a football city right now for either league, like Chicago?
Yeah, and they just say
Philadelphia.
Negotiations are going well. Like they do that. They put that
Chicago
Instagram
bean
post
behind
out.
them or something.
And you've got again a whole nother week of people saying the letters CFL and XFL. That's all they would need to do. I don't need the announcement like Dave Naylor said last week. Be patient. I'm ready to be patient for that, but updates from the negotiation table, especially from the CFL side, like they have to because their league is supposed to kick off in less than 3 months now. So, yeah, I don't want. It's so hard to be patient, but as XFL fans, we've learned it. CFL fans are the ones that are going to be having the tough time, like you said, thinking about the future. Not something they are accustomed to. The more we learn about the two leagues and their differences and similarities. CFL fans, they don't live in this world of what ifs and optimism and gumdrops and lollipops and dancing on clouds like we do.
The CFL to them was a washer machine. You knew it was going to start, you knew it was going to stop, and it was going to work. Maybe once in a while you had to get a new one. Okay, 1990 we had to go into expansion. 2020 or 2020 we have to do this. The consistency, I think, is what the CFL was looking forward to. Fans, anyway.
And XFL fans, we just love sugar plums and dreaming away each and every single day. So CFL fans listening or watching, try it out. It's a lot of fun. As Bryant will tell you, talking about leagues that aren't actually playing can be really fun, especially when you get to the speculating and the guessing and the thinking about the possibilities. It's really endless.
Oh yeah, no CFL fans. If you don't, we had, I think it was 102 episodes of this podcast before the XFL ever kicked off a football game. So we're totally to this, hey, what's going to happen? What do we think is going to happen? What do we want to have happen? Try not to be negative about it. Try to be positive. This could be something good for your league. You're going to play football.
So
you're going to see your teams all over the world. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe global football league. Who knows? But let's get to this last part I have here, Bryant. And this is really inspired by an article a lot of people read. I did. I know you did. And Dave Naylor read it. He referenced it last week. We're going to try to get our old friend Mike Mitchell on the show here soon. He wrote a fantastic article basically saying all the reasons why it's looking like the XFL won't kick off until 2023. I think this was on XFL News Hub, and the article kind of says there's a painful pill XFL fans might have to swallow, and that is waiting another year longer than the 2022, which was promised by the league with a slick video package and some announcements, Bryant. But reading that Mike Mitchell article, what does postponing to 2023 mean for the XFL? And can you handle it? I know you can, but other fans in general, can they handle another year of waiting?
Well, here's the thing, and yes, to me, it is a lot of fun talking about a league that hasn't kicked off yet because your mind can go in so many different directions. My main problem is there has to be promise. We'll address the elephant in the room that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. When the XFL went into bankruptcy, we disappeared. Why? Because there was no football on the horizon. There's no reason for us to come out here and speak about things unless we see football in the future. So I think XFL fans specifically can handle a 2023 postponement if it comes with the announcement that something better is the reason for it. Because if there's no reason for it, then I think XFL diehards will stick around. We'll stick around. Of course we will. But will fans be more optimistic? Well, you just said 2022. Now you're saying 2023. You haven't really given us a reason. What's the reason? Now let's speculate about the reason. I mean, I think fans are okay with it if it means overall health for the league. But
I think the reason is pretty clear. It's clock's ticking right now on 2022. If you push that thing back one more season and you have a CFL partner, you have a lot of runway to make sure you have a fantastic kickoff.
But if you don't have a CFL partner, did you put all your eggs in one basket with this league and all of a sudden it fell through and now you're like, oh crap, now we got to do this all over again?
Yeah.
Are you going to do this again? Is it going to happen when you try to get involved with another type of league? You know, the AAF, we criticize them, or at least I do, for rushing things, for seeming like they rush things. We are 3 days past the 3-year anniversary of the AAF making their little TED Talk announcement that they were going to play football. We are already past that point, and that point seemed rush. So I guess 2022 is probably not in the question anymore. Maybe if it's April and May, it's still maybe there, maybe. But for XFL fans to have hope, it needs to be for a good reason. That's all we care about. That's all we want. In 2018, when Vince McMahon came out and said, hey, we're coming out with football in 2020, everyone was like, 2 years, oh my gosh. But then you start thinking about what it actually meant, and it was okay. This, if it means something good, I think we'll be okay with it.
Also, we need to address this too, because this is a thought put out there by, I think I saw this on some like Canadian sports talkers out there tweeting this out or writing articles. I forget which which person, maybe it was like Glenn Suter, I think wrote this, but or something like the XFL planned to play in 2023 all along. This is a stalling tactic, maybe. This is just to get some attention, rub elbows with a respected league like the CFL, maybe even make themselves known to CFL players, maybe even take advantage of a hurting CFL. Let's acknowledge those thoughts out there, Bryant. What do you think of that when people say maybe the CFL isn't really even serious about some kind of deal or alignment with or the XFL's not really serious about these negotiations, and that this is all just a part of their plan to really push back their first announcement of 2022, save some face, learn some things, get some exposure?
If that's the case, if that exact scenario happened for the XFL, brilliant. You figured out a way to delay your leg. You're making it seem like you're working hard. I get it. Perfect. If you are the CFL and that's the case, well, you are creating so much negative buzz around your league right now for no reason. There's optimism. That's what I'm trying to convey to CFL fans. I know it sucks right now, but there's optimism. It looks bright. There's going to be changes. It's going to be good. If none of that happens and you're just getting in bed with the XFL and letting XFL kind of use you to get their name out there a little bit more, horrible decision by Randy and Brucey. Horrible decision by the entire league to let this happen. So maybe the XFL had plans to delay these talks, but Dave Naylor also alluded to the fact that these talks have been happening for months.
Yep.
Now they're just kind of official. This isn't something that just kind of landed on the plates on March 5th, and they're like, oh, hey, let's talk about this, and let's put a statement a couple days later. It's been going on for a while.
And really, you're kind of when you make an accusation like that, you're also kind of alluding to calling The Rock a liar, because his Instagram post and his press release during these announcements were very, very forthright and direct, saying respect for the CFL, wanting to grow the game, and concern for the players and the fans. Using it as a marketing tactic and a way to, in a roundabout way, be a corporate kind of raider of a dying league. That would be very devious, very cutthroat of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I don't think he's a smart businessman, but I don't think he's that kind of businessman. And I don't think Danny Garcia is that kind of business person either. Redbird Capital is buying stake in all sorts of leagues or teams, and properties, but they're not raiding anything. They're not picking up too many damaged goods. I mean, Fenway Sports Group's not damaged. That is elite. So I just can't buy into that notion. I understand why that thought's out there, but I wanted to bring it up because people will respond with that. I just think, I don't know, maybe I've trust in the company line and the Rock so far too much. Yeah. But also I believe the CFL is in a situation where they wouldn't even consider this unless this is like something that's going to be very possible. Something like that comes out that says the XFL is only doing this to give them a reason to delay till 2023. Yes, you're coming to try to slap the XFL in the face for doing, but you're slapping the CFL too right in the face by saying that, because if the CFL is willing to kind of just be this, it's like, hey, it's like they're coming off like someone saying, "Why are you dating this guy? He's no good for you. Quit it. Why are you with him? You got to see through it. He's not a good guy." But that's not the case. He's a great guy. It's the XFL. It's hope. It's innovation. It's exciting. And it's a crazy, awesome ownership group from what we know so far. So hang out, go out, have a few drinks, go out on the town. I mean, well, you can't really because of COVID, but yeah, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. And I challenge anyone who is more pro CFL. This week, the last couple weeks, you've taken it to the point where you feel like your CFL is being taken away from you. You feel like the 3-down football is going away. You're defending your CFL to the death, and I get it. But I challenge you this week to actually turn into a positive. What can they do for you that would make your CFL football better? What can they do for the CFL? What can this partnership actually do to make things better for you? And I think you'll start coming up with some pretty good ideas.
I know the best idea that someone came up with, Bryant, to you is 2023, because you were salivating at the thought of an entire calendar year now of preparation and announcements and all sorts of
preparation.
Preparation. I mean, just think about it. I'm almost for it now. Tough pill to swallow. Let's push it back a little bit more and have some more fun speculating on stuff and then getting big announcements and reacting to them on this show. I'm all for it. Basically reliving 2019 all over again, Brian. I'm all for that.
Do you think a 2022 is possible February kickoff like we thought right now at this point?
I am very
rushed?
skeptical. It would feel rushed. It's possible, but I would say it would feel rushed, and the letters AAF would be haunting me in my sleep if that was announced as the
There's
plan.
still a good base there. There's still a good base.
There, like we've said, there's a foundation already for the XFL, but then also there are no players. There are no staffs on the teams. There's no TV
players.
deal.
There was no players until October.
There was scouting going on, and there was planning for it, and we know all that stuff has been halted right now. On pause.
You think it's going to be like Major League? If they wanted to play in 2022, it's going to be like the movie Major League, where they're calling players and they're like in Mexico. One of them's in jail. One of them's over here, like, construction worker. He's doing this over here. Be like, hey, you want to come down to play football for the Wildcats?
That's more like the USFL. That's like what the USFL basically was. Football for a Buck. Jeff Pearlman, another great book, almost as good as the XFL rule book, but another good read too. Speaking of the USFL, Bryant, but another good show, yes, another good week of learning about the CFL and the state of XFL optimism, as high as ever, I would say.
Well, I went. I Googled. I finally know. I know exactly what a rouge is. I know what it is. I Googled it. I watched an Australian version of CFL rules, a summary on YouTube. It was pretty good.
Why'd you go to Australia to learn about the CFL?
Well, I just Googled what is CFL rules or something like that, and that one popped up. I think it's an Australian video trying to teach people who play rugby football, Canadian style.
Oh, we can't forget. Yeah, maybe there's some people in Australia really concerned about this too. I don't know. I don't know what game is more popular. NFL's probably. Dave Naylor hit the nail on the head too. All these kids up in Canada grew up playing Madden. Everyone around the world grew up playing Madden. 4-down football is the thing. This is
Alan. You keep saying 4-down football. Can we just say it?
Football
is the thing.
I don't want to disrespect anybody. In this context, I'll call it 4-down football.
It's football and it's 3-down football.
You could say that. I'll keep saying the numbers just to differentiate for everybody.
What number is that?
724
565
565-4XFL. That's the fan line. Call it, text it. Standard text messaging rates apply.
Well, catch us here every single Friday right here on your favorite podcast app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you give us that 5-star review and tell your friends about us. Also, if you got a comment, question, or concern, or a topic you want us to cover, well, then text or call the XFL Fan Line, 724-565.
That's the number.
4XFL. That's the number for sure. Standard text messaging rates do apply, and international rates too.
It's wrong.
That. Also follow us on social media at XFL Show, all your gimmicks, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you, Twitter specifically too as well. A lot of fun on Twitter. Or if you want to say hello to us, come say hi and subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/This Is The XFL Show, the official YouTube page of the XFL. Oh, and don't forget to check out our sponsors, Pretty Easy Podcast. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com. Get started today because they make podcasting pretty easy.
And some people clamoring, Bryant, for us to reboot the Patreon just so we would have a Young Rock recap show on there.
Where is that? That did not happen.
I'm hearing there's rumblings. People want that. They want us to talk also about the other football leagues, but I don't know. We'll see. About to go back out in
thing. It might.
I mean, the Patreon once upon a time was the thing. Who knows? Maybe that'll rise from the grave eventually. I mean, it might have to if there's like a CFL XFL merger and there's all this football to talk about. Not to mention college game. I mean, there's college football going on right now. We could be talking about, but we only have so much time.
And if you want to talk about it, go to PrettyEasyPodcast.com.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I would love to listen to a Pretty Easy Podcast produced spring college football show.
FCS college football
all day.
Show.
But we would do it, but I'm never home anymore, Brian. So
Yeah.
I don't have the time.
Now, are you actually home?
I'm
or is
actually
this just
home.
a green screen background? Like any proof?
This week I green screened my home
or something?
office just for nostalgia purposes, just to feel like I was home. No, yeah, I'm actually here
You're not sitting. You're just
for another
squatting.
day. And then back on the road to take care of more family members. That's what it's all about, though. You got to stick together.
Caregiver Al, great
Road warrior Al,
great individual. Road warrior Al, too.
All right.
There's so much happening. Follow us on Twitter because I think we'll keep putting out poll questions. Alan, are you still glued to Twitter? I know last week you said, "Hey, I'm actually like refreshing my page. I want to see what's happening. I want to see what's going on."
Yeah,
there's so much happening,
and it's great. I actually was talking to a good friend of ours this week, Charles Lepresto Esquire, who was telling me I can't do Twitter anymore. Got to get off of it. And I saw Chrissy Teigen got off of Twitter too. Brian, people are jumping off Twitter, and I'm like, why? Just put the one term you care about and just only look at people talking about that thing. And that's like, I don't see any of the bad stuff out there in the world because all I'm looking at is CFL, XFL, refresh, CFL, XFL. What are we going to talk about on the show? What's Dave Naylor saying? That's all you got to do. Twitter's fun.
I mean, in reality, that is all you got to do. I think you got to follow. I mean, if you follow any more than like 200 people, you're probably stretching yourself a little too thin. I think I follow like 100 and some. You can't follow that many.
It's a lot of voices in your head.
Yeah.
And then you get enough voices in your head, eventually you'll be seeing scary men in masks and spitting up blood. If you watch Monday Night Raw, you know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We got it. All right. We got a good bow to
really
put.
Good this week.
Yes.
Say hi to your mamas. Love your mamas. Your mamas are everything. Listen to your mom.
Yes. Listen to your mama, like Mr. T said. And watch Young Rock. Come back to this show next week. We are?
We're live.
We're live? Okay. Yeah, we're live. Oh, yeah. But was it? I was in a play once. I was Mercutio. This is not the Young Rock recap, but it's hilarious. All righty. Here we go, Brian. Let's get the hell out of here. We'll be back next week to talk more about the fun XFL, CFL negotiations and whatever else news comes up. You know this is the place to be. The original, official XFL podcast. For Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL show. Remember, they're listening.